I'm Diane McCallum.
I'm Andrew Ivimey.
And this is Fan vs. Fan for episodes 1 to 7 of Marvel's Jessica Jones.
Jessica, I know your secrets. I know about your friends. About your gifts. Jessica Jones. I know everything.
Alright, so before we go any further with recapping Jessica Jones, this is for episodes 1 to 7 of Jessica Jones. If you haven't already watched episodes 1 to 7, what are you doing here? How did you find this video? Thank you for finding us. Pause it right now. Go watch episodes 1 to 7. We'll wait. Alright, you've watched it. So
You're traumatized now.
You're traumatized. It is a heavy show. So we're going to recap. So basically, you've seen what's happened. We got Marvel's Jessica Jones, a very, very dark character. Abuse, mind control, superpowers, falling in love with Luke Cage, falling out of love with Luke Cage, really more Luke falling out of love with her, because she murdered his wife. This is a heavy, dark show.
And that's one of the lightest dark storylines,
yes.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's been fantastic so far. I'm really enjoying it, despite its weight on my chest. I will say it has been a difficult show to binge watch.
Yes. I mean, I assume people are watching right now because they had to turn it off and they were like, let's watch something else for a bit.
You really need to take a break. Yeah, because we did 7 consecutive hours of this. And it weighs on you. It was
difficult. It was the hardest binge watch I've ever had to do.
It was a hefty challenge. They're dealing with some tough subject matter here, and I'm glad that they're tackling it, but it's still tough.
So Jessica Jones, the Marvel show, is based on the Alias books in the Marvel Universe. So Alias is a Brian Michael Bendis book. It's about Jessica Jones' story, and it's a pretty new book. It was early 2000s, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
And this is actually pretty close to her story. It's but it was it was the very first or one of the first Max titles they did, which means they could have explicit sex, they could have swearing. It was a very dark book, and this is a very dark show.
And boy, did they.
This show feels very much the same as the book. You read Alias, which is the book's title, and you don't feel like you're reading a Marvel comic book because it's so dark. There's so much. And that
was true of the majority of the Max series as well. Like, I remember reading a lot of the Punisher Max series, which was another phenomenal one. But yeah, it went to some heavy and uncomfortable places, and it was a little bit more brutal than anything else. And they carried that over very honestly and truly to the show.
They did. Actually, I'm going to say the show's probably darker than the comic feels.
Really? Okay.
The comic has a lot more that doesn't involve Purple Man. I mean, the comic's not super long. I think there's only like 40 issues. Okay. But there's a lot more of Jessica just solving regular detective-y things. Like, they still involve superheroes a little bit, so they need her to be the detective for it. But right. Purple Man's involved with very little of the story, even in the first volume of her book.
So we're seeing a little bit more just day-to-day private eye life.
Yeah, in the book. In the book, there's a lot more of Jessica just being a detective. Like, her backstory's still there, and it's filtered in a little by little, but it's in the things that she detects in Volume 1 aren't that dark. Purple Man's the darkest thing about the comic.
Right.
And the rest of the comic, when she's just solving things, she's like, and I'm trying to find Rick Jones. Like, Rick Jones is missing. It's one of the crimes she solves.
Okay, he's probably dead.
He was alive. Oh. He was fine. Right. That ended well.
Good work, Rick.
Let's jump into casting real quickly. So we have Kristen Ritter as title character Jessica Jones. How do you think she's doing?
I think she's performing incredibly. I think she's crushing it so far.
I like her. I don't even, not love her, but I feel bad that she's not my favorite character on the show.
Okay.
Since she's the title character.
Right.
I actually think Luke Cage and Kilgrave are, really crushing it for me.
Right,
I don't think Kristen Ritter's doing a bad job by any means, but I'm finding both those characters way more compelling.
Right.
So Luke Cage is played by Mike Coulter, and Kilgrave is David Tennant, and I think they're both super well cast and just crushing it.
Well, I feel like this is definitely the story of the villain, so Tennant really gets the chance to shine, even though he's a shadowy, ominous figure and doesn't necessarily get the screen time that I would have liked to have seen out of him. At least from the first 7, we'll see how the next 6 play out. But he's not getting the screen time that I would like, but he's still, when he is on there, completely taking over the screen and taking over my dreams/nightmares that happen after the show. So I think it's a really strong performance, and I love that it's a villain story, and I think he's shining with it.
It's interesting you mentioned that he's not in it as much as you want, because it feels like he's always there. Not that he always has scenes, but they've done a really good job of like just inserting Kilgrave's presence into the entire story arc. You feel the danger of him around every corner. Right.
Well, I agree that is the tone of the show, and I think that they're conveying that really well. It's that sense of that sense of voyeurism and how terrifying that is in Jessica Jones' life, that he's always there, she can never really escape, first of all, the memory of what he's done, or the power that he has should he choose to inflict it upon her. So there is that imposing, constant feeling that is the theme of what his powers are and what his powers have done to her. So that theme is there the whole time, and we feel it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's actually there. So what I'm saying, we're just not getting the screen time for the performance, or as much of the performance as I would like from Tennant. When he is there, we're getting a phenomenal performance, but for the rest of the time, we're just getting that tone, that fear, that constant sense of panic that Jessica has, and that they're conveying really well.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because he speaks so often through other characters.
Right.
Another character will show up who's been brainwashed and be like, I got a message from Kilgrave, and you're like, I know you're David Tennant, and I feel like maybe David Tennant told you how to say this way?
Right.
I don't know, I feel like he's always there.
All right, let's talk about pros of Jessica Jones. What did you like, Diana?
I like the show. I'm loving the show. It's super dark, but what I really like about it is within the darkness, the show feels very real. It's very much set in reality. Like, I've never seen... I guess I shouldn't say I've never seen a superhero with PTSD, because I'm pretty sure Tony Stark and Iron Man 3 did.
Right.
But,
and I'm pretty sure every superhero has it to varying degrees.
But such a
Bruce is not doing well.
He's not super well adapted to life. Fair enough. But just such a grounded show. Just like, she's trying to make rent. I've never, ever in my life seen a superhero have so much trouble getting drugs. Like, just when she figures out what drug she needs to put the Purple Man under so he can't use his powers, and it takes her 2 episodes to get those drugs. Like, any other show, you're going to be like, oh, I have a friend who works at a hospital, here are your drugs.
You just have the drugs.
Any show, movie, comic book, it's just drugs. But the fact that she's like, man, I do not know how to get drugs.
Right. But a very specific drug.
Yeah.
If you were like, get drugs, general drugs, I think she could make that happen. You know, she's a PI, she knows some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, the specificity of it, I like that's what's causing the complication for her. Like, I like that she even has a doctor friend that she's going to try to get the drugs, to be like, I am not that specific type of surgeon.
Yeah, for the doctor to be like, I'm a general practitioner and you need a surgeon.
Yeah. I really like that. I like the specificity of the world that it exists in, of being like, there's a particular thing that affects a particular circumstance, and we're going to carry that through to its full extent. I like that it's not painting a world in broad strokes. It's very much painting individual people, scenarios, places, and objects in how they relate to these exact characters that we know. Yeah,
which I think is really true to the comic book, which is all about Jessica, her PI firm. But it's also just, it's really stopped me from yelling things at the screen. Like, I watch so many shows where I'm like, why are you acting illogically? Where did you get those drugs?
I've been there. She's done that.
I do it. But I don't think I did that hardly at all in this show. I'm like, no, you're making the steps that are necessary to get those drugs. It wouldn't be difficult.
Right.
You're going to your lawyer to get work. You can't pay for whiskey. Luke's acting reasonably about all this stuff you told him. It's all just... It all just feels real, and I think that's what even makes all the Tenet stuff more terrifying. Okay. The fact that you're like, oh, these feel like real people with real problems, and then some superhero stuff is just really tearing them apart.
No, I can absolutely see that. It is real people with incredible problems, incredibly dark, powerful problems. I mean, and that's one thing that I will say is is the extreme of the problems that they encounter, because the characters feel so kind of grounded and real. That difficulty with these simple day-to-day situations, whether it's replacing a window and door, getting a simple task like getting that door fixed, paying the rent, getting whiskey, getting drunk, going to the bar. These simple tasks that are woven very intricately throughout the show make the extreme results of the terrifying character of Kilgrave feel even more haunting. Like even episode 1, starting with the pilot episode, which I feel was an incredibly strong pilot episode, one of the best I've ever seen, really set up everything we need to know about the world. Just ending with the elevator murder.
Oh.
Episode 1. An incredibly extreme circumstance. But if we didn't have the grounded characters that we have, it might have felt extreme to the point of like a B horror movie. Mm-hmm. It's not something that the murder of 2 people is not something so extreme that we haven't seen it in film or television before, to the point where we're desensitized to seeing that kind of murder. It's the fact that they made it so trivial, day-to-day grounded, that added the impact and power to that as a great episode 1 closer.
Well, yeah, because it's especially easy to make those 2 parent characters that they introduced to be just nothing people. Just like, they showed up, they had no character, they left. But to have in the background the dad trying to fix the door the whole time.
Those little
the
details.
Mom be
Classic
so
dad
worried.
Move.
Such a classic dad.
Classic
I was like,
dad move.
oh my god, this is the best dad in the Marvel Universe. This guy right here.
Yeah.
I've met this dad.
Yeah.
Like, immediately you saw that guy in the back trying to fix the door and you're like, that's like a million dads I've met.
Yeah.
You're a real dad.
Yeah.
And then he dies, like, along with the wife at the end. And you just get that gut punch. You're like, oh, he was a real dad.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't an actor there for the day. You felt like he was someone's father.
Yeah. Yeah. And that adds that's one of the big pros for me, is that the minute adds to the extreme. And I love that about this.
Yeah, they're doing a really great job of just microcosming.
Yeah.
This show is set within 4 blocks of Hell's Kitchen, within like 3 people.
Hooked me in right away with that feeling, with that incredible feeling right off the top.
Yeah, I totally agree. Is that your pro?
I mean, that's one of my pros. But I could go on. Like we mentioned Luke Cage. Luke Cage is a phenomenal character that's really contributing to this universe. I love that it's a villain story. That always encapsulates me as when it comes to any hero. When it comes to any comic book character, I feel like a hero is nothing without the villain, and I love that that's what this show is.
Especially because Marvel doesn't have great villains.
They don't.
Marvel have really over-the-top villains with big plans to take over the world, but hardly any of those stories are personal. Yeah. Loki is really the only good Marvel villain we've seen so far, because he's got a really personal story with Thor. Correct. But every other villain's kind of a throwaway. Like, I don't remember what Ronan the Accuser did. Red Skull was real over the top. He didn't have a personal vendetta with Cap. Right. This is great to finally get a really fleshed out personal story with a villain. It's very Batman and Joker. Like, we complete each other.
It absolutely is. It is. Yeah, 100%. That's a great analogy. It is the Joker of Jessica Jones, and I think it might be even better than Loki. It might be the best villain that we're seeing in Marvel right now, because Loki is a great villain, and it's one that has encapsulated audiences. There are so many fans of Loki and of Tom Hiddleston just in general, but also we have other good villains in the Marvel Universe. Like, when it comes to the Daredevil series, Kingpin was a really good villain, but I feel like Kingpin did not offer what Kilgrave, the Purple Man, has to offer in this series, because what they did with Daredevil was they made a villain story intriguing to us because they had him display weakness. They had him display emotion and everything that humanizes a character who is also this monster, which creates a great story arc in one shot for who that villain is. But once we've seen that, we do not require more of this villain. Whereas with Loki, we get that fun, playful, but still powerful villain that we want to see more of. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Kilgrave as Purple Man, we are getting the best of both worlds. We're getting that personal aspect that we really liked to see from Daredevil, and Kingpin on Daredevil. Mm-hmm. And then we're also getting that grand, overarching, it's terrifying that he's out there in this world vision that we get from Loki. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is the best of the two best villains that Marvel has right now, creating what I think is one of the better characters out there.
Definitely, because even though he's terrifying, he's kind of charming sometimes.
He certainly is.
He can be charming. You just love watching him. Yeah. He's got that personal story, and even in the very last episode, we actually see kind of a little bit of vulnerability, like we did with Kingpin, where
just
he's like, "No, Jessica, I'm never going to control you again. I love you." And like when you looked into his eyes, I believed him. Did you believe him?
I believed it.
I believed he's actually in love with her,
and that makes it scarier.
Oh, super scary!
It makes it a combination of sympathetic and scarier at the same time.
Yeah, where you're like, oh, he's never going to stop.
Yeah. All right, let's talk cons. Now, what didn't we like about the first 7 episodes? Diana, what didn't you like?
All right, I mentioned earlier that I liked that this show didn't make me yell at the screen too often.
Not too often.
It's one thing that made me yell at the screen quite a bit. Why have they not just killed the Purple Man? This is bothering me so much. We have had so many opportunities to kill him, and so many more people have died because they haven't killed him. Like, they shot him with a tranquilizer gun that could have just been a real gun. Yeah. He could just be dead.
You could snipe him from far away. They've had a lot of real good kill shots.
Real good opportunities to murder him without any repercussions. And, I mean, I think they've mentioned a couple times, no, we need him alive so we can get Hope out of jail. Yeah. But she's literally found dozens of people now willing to testify that he has mind control powers.
And along the road there, many new people have died. So I understand the ideal of if we capture him, if we stop this, then we can also prove Hope's innocence. But how many people need to die along that road? And where it bothers me as a viewer is that within comic books or within comic book characters, we've seen this tale before. The hero who won't kill. But Jessica Jones is not a traditional hero. She's a touch of an anti-hero. She's a touch of the rebel. It's a little bit of that Han Solo, like, too cool to be a hero kind of vibe that she puts out there. It's that chaotic good that we like, but also because she's not traditionally heroically good, she's not the, like, every life is precious kind of character. I feel like we haven't been sold enough on why she can't just kill him.
Yeah, like, I feel like, she's definitely not life is precious. Like, I feel like maybe she just isn't ready to murder yet. But the cop, Officer Simpson, offered to kill him. And I'm like, let him! Yeah. He was in the army. He's like, I can just snipe the guy and kill him. And I was like, yeah, we should. Yeah. That should be the plan. Yeah. Like, he's murdered so many people. We saw Ruben viciously killed in the last episode. And, like, he was a weird guy, but he doesn't deserve to die.
No, he didn't deserve to. He was a weird dude. You're right. He's a weird dude. But definitely didn't deserve to die. But that's what bothers me is that they've set up a world where I want this tension to keep going back and forth between them. I want to keep watching that. So I immediately want to buy what you're selling me. I immediately want to be like, okay, yeah, she can't kill him. Let's keep this cat and mouse game going. This is making entertaining television. So I want to buy in, and they're giving me every excuse not to, which is really frustrating. Between Kilgrave killing more people, I feel like the Hope storyline is not particularly engaging, so I'm not really worried about whether Hope is going to prison or not. I'm not worried about her innocence.
Hope hasn't really begged to be saved. Yeah. If there'd been a scene where Hope was like, Jessica, please help me prove my innocence, Hope seems to be just like, no, I deserve to be in prison.
Or if they had just more of a connection. If we just had a little bit more of a relationship build between Hope and Jessica, I would buy into that a little further than of being like, this is a personal thing now. She needs to make sure that Hope doesn't go to prison. So I feel like they haven't sold Hope well. And then the cop thing, like you mentioned, like they keep giving me excuses to want Kilgrave to die, even though I started off from the base level of ready to buy in that he can't. You know?
Even if and also what she could do, because she had him unconscious in her hands. Okay, you don't want to kill him. Punch him in the throat and destroy his voice box. Like, that would work so well. All of his powers are voice-based.
Yeah, we came up with so much stuff. Send in a deaf person. Done. Like, there's so much stuff you could do.
You get Deaf Hawkeye, or you get Echo, the Daredevil character who can't hear, or you just put noise-canceling headphones on.
Best $80 at Best Buy you would ever spend.
I know money's tight, Jessica, but noise-canceling headphones.
It ain't that tight. Like, there's so many workarounds.
Yeah, because he needs to be. You need to hear him to know what he wants you to do, and that's where his power lies. Yeah. If you can't hear what he's saying, you're off free.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, deaf people have no problem with Daredevil. That's their superpower.
Now the one thing that I will say as one of my cons is that and the Hope thing kind of gets to it. I feel like that the B and C storylines in the show is severely lacking. I'm incredibly engaged with Jessica, I'm incredibly engaged with Kilgrave, and with Luke, but I don't care about Hope, Trish, or Hogarth. And I don't think that the actors are to blame. I think that they're doing best with the material that they are given, but I think it's flat characters, and I feel like a lot of their development is coming out of nowhere. Like the whole Hogarth divorce storyline.
This is my least favorite storyline.
And it's not only not an interesting storyline, everything that moves that storyline forward comes out of left field, but not in a surprising cliffhanger kind of way. It's just a like, oh, you're a character who's still in the room? It's just a like Hogarth being like, oh, you're having an affair? Why do I care? Oh, you're getting a divorce? That came out of nowhere. Why do I care?
And it's in every episode.
Every episode. And it's just...
It's nothing.
It rushes at you full speed and doesn't even hit you hard. Like it's fascinating just from it's fascinating how ineffective it is as a storyline.
Yeah, just it's not related to anything that's going on. Like at least when you got like Trish and the cop who aren't super compelling to me, but they're helping Jessica and they know what's going on. And Jerry just doesn't seem like she cares about anything that's going on, not just with her divorce, but with Jessica's case with Kilgrave. She's like, no, fine, whatever, get me some evidence, I'll go to court. Like, she's not passionate about anything, and I think that's what makes her so boring, maybe?
Certainly is.
Certainly is. Like, the only thing I know she's passionate about is, like, banging that secretary.
Yeah. But, and good on her, I understand those motivations.
I mean, that makes... I never misunderstood her motivations.
Yeah.
I don't know why her character is so... getting so much screen time.
I agree.
With this weird storyline.
And that's not even the only B storyline that doesn't work in this show. Like I feel like Trish's storyline. And here's the thing, it actually oddly kind of works. I'm interested in Trish as a character.
I like Trish.
I like her. I think she's doing a good performance. I like her as a person and as a character. I like the dynamic that she develops with the cop whose name escapes me at the moment. But
I know it's Officer Simpson. I don't know his first name.
Let's go with Officer Simpson. So Trish and Officer Simpson, her dynamic is intriguing. Her past as a child star, the whole mother relationship, that is all interesting to me in its own show. It doesn't complement this show in any way. It doesn't drive forward the Jessica storyline for me. It feels like an interesting distraction more than anything else. In no way complements it.
I agree. I feel like the show has that problem where their escalation doesn't work because in an episode about Trish learning Krav Maga, I'm like, a show about you learning Krav Maga would be great.
I'm cool
but
with
when
that.
your sister has superpowers, I just don't really care. And I kind of felt the same thing happened in that one episode that was Luke heavy. Because Luke has stronger powers and invulnerable skin. In the episode where he played a really big role, episode 6, I cared a little less about Jessica. Because I'm like, well, he can just power through everything.
Right, everything's going to be okay.
So I feel like it's very hard to have multiple heroes in a grounded series like this.
Right, multiple heroes of a varying power.
Yeah, really.
Because when we're talking about Trish, who's learning Krav Maga and is being a bit of a fighter, versus Jessica, who has super strength and can fly-ish, controlled falling, she calls it, and then Luke Cage, who has super strength and is invulnerable.
Completely invulnerable.
That is three like very heavy different areas of a sliding scale. Like and it really throws the balance of one another off and makes whoever's below them on that scale less interesting when they're on screen.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because like not that I want Trish not to be able to defend herself, but I feel like it's weird that this show is doing the backstory of two heroes.
Yeah, I want Trish to have her own show. Yeah, not because she's stealing this series, but just because you're just interesting enough that I want more, but just distracting enough that you're hurting this show.
Yeah, like if I was watching Daredevil, but like the Hulk was also in the show, I'd be like, what's going on with the Hulk Daredevil? Yeah. He's going to destroy New York probably worse than Kingpin did.
That guy's pretty cray.
You know?
Okay. Yeah,
I totally agree on that con.
Yeah.
And one more con that I did have is I like Kilgrave. I think he's great. I think he's a great villain. I don't think he's been laid into the show super well. Actually, I just don't think more stuff has been laid into the show well. You don't like the B and C storylines, and I think there just hasn't been enough other things for Jessica to do other than track Kilgrave really slowly. It feels really drawn out. Like 2 episodes to find drugs, an entire episode trying to figure out who's taking photos of her. Like, I feel like they didn't plan enough story. Because we're only on episode 7. I'm like, how are there 6 more episodes of trying to kill Kilgrave? Like, he should be dead. He should be stopped already. Like, my favorite episode is episode 6, where Jess and Luke go do a thing, and Kilgrave's buying a house. There's 2 congruent storylines. There's a lot going on for everyone. And it felt like the most complete episode. Every other episode just feels like we're dragging out finding Kilgrave.
Okay.
And I just don't feel like there's been enough in the show other than that.
I'll politely disagree with that as a comment. Like, I don't think we're dragging it out. I feel like I said, we needed more motivation not to kill him. So there are some related elements to what you're saying, but I feel like I'm ready for 6 more episodes of how do we stop Kilgrave.
I just don't feel like there's been anything else going on, but not to the point
there definitely hasn't.
Yeah, like, I don't know, the B and C storylines should be stronger, you're right, because I don't care about them, so it feels like there's nothing, because I'm just worried about Kilgrave the whole time. Right. And yeah, there's not enough in the show for me. Like, Kingpin didn't get introduced until like episode 4 or 5, I think, of Daredevil. And it's with episode 1 just starting off on Kilgrave. Like, we never got a sense that Jessica even, like, was doing okay, like, that she was solving other crimes. I would have loved just one episode early where she was just solving crimes with, like, little bits of backstory in. Okay. Like, so we can see she's a good detective. We can see that she's, like, healing in a good place, and then Kilgrave screws it all up. I think it just got dropped a little quick. Even though I do love that pilot, so I really don't know if I can say that's a con. I think the pilot's really good. So I'm a conflicted lady, but yeah, I feel like it could be drawn. I feel like there could be more going on in the show.
I get it. I disagree, but I get it.
All right. Well, agree to disagree.
No. All right, Easter eggs. What did we find, Diana?
The Easter eggs on this show are a little light. I feel like it's because the show doesn't feel like the rest of the Marvel Universe, so they were kind of just like, maybe not too many connections to everything else going on.
Right.
But I think my favorite Easter egg was probably, so if you watch Daredevil, there's one point in Daredevil where they're at the police precinct, and in the background there's a photo of Officer Stan Lee. Yeah. He's like the captain of the police precinct they're in. In Jessica Jones, there's the same photo in the background. Right. So Stan Lee is technically in both Daredevil and Jessica Jones. He's doing a great job as a captain. And I also think this establishes that it's the same police precinct.
It definitely is. Hell's Kitchen is a small area of town. They're going to have the same police precinct.
There are going to be 4 huge superheroes in like 4 blocks in this town, which is like ridiculous.
Right. And I'm surprised, though, that we haven't seen a Daredevil or other tie-in yet.
There have not been any... In 7 episodes, I have not noticed a single tie-in to Daredevil, to, like, even Kingpin / Fisk. Yeah. There have been mentions of the Avengers, and that's about it.
And that's about it. And there should be more. There should be a, like... If you watch Daredevil on Netflix, there should be a, like... Oh, remember last week when 12 Russian opium dens exploded in our neighborhood? You know those 14 Fisk Industries buildings that were half built and are now what the hell? You know, there should be a bunch of that. There's a lot of problems going on in this neighborhood that could be addressed that aren't. But I'm really hoping that we're going to see something on those back 6 episodes.
Yeah, a little bit as we get closer to the end, connecting more to Daredevil and the rest of the series so that we can like tie into Defenders. But yeah real few connections to the Daredevil universe, considering he probably lives around the corner. Like, she probably has walked by that blind guy and been like, no, that guy.
Right.
So, not very many connections there. So, another Easter egg is, at one point, Jessica is trying to refer clients away, and she says she's going to refer them to Angela Del Toro. Now, this is White Tiger. So in White Tiger is a comic book character. She's an FBI agent. She actually tries to figure out who Daredevil is and teams up with Matt. She gets turned evil for a bit and joins the Hand.
Oh, I did not know that.
So
that seems like she would be a good candidate, though. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that might happen. I actually don't really know how I feel about this Easter egg because I really like White Tiger. Yeah. So I don't really love her name being dropped in a way that seems to indicate she's never going to show up. I don't.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm like, I think she could totally fit in on this series. Her powers are pretty reality based. She's got connections to the Hand, which I think are going to show up.
I get it. And you know what? Say what you will about the Hand doing bad things. They really got a good recruitment team. Like, they find some talented people. You got to give them that. Yeah,
that magic brainwashing they do is stellar.
Yeah, give that to them.
I will.
Good.
I mean, actually, do you think the Purple Man is part of the Hand?
Definitely not.
Brainwashing them.
No, I mean, he would be a helpful member.
Yeah. Maybe that's what that fetus is going to be. Ooh. The leader of the Hand. And then we just had some fun Easter egg callbacks to the actual comics. In the very first episode, the first scene is she's throwing a guy through the window of her office. So that's the opening scene of the Alias comic, issue 1. Is she's told the guy that his wife's cheating on her, throws him through the window. So it's almost shot for shot. Another nice callback I liked is when they do the 18 months ago, where Trish really wants Jessica to be a superhero, and she's like, I got you this costume, and you can call yourself Jewel. She wore that in the comics for a bit. That was her. She called herself Jewel. She wore that costume. She was actually wearing it in the comics when she got caught by Purple Man. When he was like, you're going to be my superhero now.
Okay.
That was a terrible Purple Man impression. I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
It wasn't my best work.
You should apologize. But either way, it was a terrible costume. And I'm glad she didn't wear it.
I'm also glad she didn't wear it.
That really would have kind of break character for this dark place.
It really would have ruined the groundedness of this whole experience.
Oh, most definitely. All right, well, thank you for watching Fan v Fan for the first 7 episodes of Marvel's Jessica Jones. Be sure to come back to Dork Shelf's YouTube channel and check out the next episode. We're going to have episode 2 of Fan vs. Fan, which is actually going to be for the final 6 episodes of Jessica Jones. So a 2-part Fan v Fan special. Be sure to check back, and also be sure to subscribe to Dork Shelf right here.
And you can also follow Dork Shelf on Twitter right here for fun updates, and then you'll never miss a video from us. And you can check us live tweeting The Flash as well.
Yeah. We'll see you soon.
Kicked him out.